What is the cost of living in Cancun, Mexico? Hey, welcome to this video where the goal will be to answer that question for you based on my experience living in Cancun, Mexico for well over 2 months. Now, I will share with you the cost of living with regards to rent, also with regards to food and transportation, so you get a better idea of what you can expect cost of living wise in Cancun, Mexico. Now, I've spent over 2 months living in the downtown area amongst the locals, and 1 month I spent where I was doing vacations at different times. So we're not going to cover the vacation part because if you're coming to Cancun for a 7 or 10 or 14-day vacation, you're most likely going to be staying in the hotel zone. We got some fireworks outside. I hope you're enjoying that if you hear that. But if you're going to be staying in the hotel zone for a vacation, then it's going to be maybe a complete different experience. Most times you get all inclusive and your flights, everything are together. So we're not going to cover that part in terms of what it's like for cost, etc. for when you come to vacations. I will cover going to the hotel zone. If you're living in Cancun and you want to go to the hotel zone, I'll cover some of the expenses there so you can be mindful and understand the things that you can expect there. Again, we've got fireworks show out there. I hope you're enjoying that if you hear that. My apologies for that noise if you are hearing. I cannot control what people do outside with their fireworks. Anyways, with that said, let's dive into the cost of living. We'll first focus on the rent. I first rented for 1 month in Cancun a room in someone's home. The second time I rented a studio apartment, and it was a studio apartment, but it had a wall that would separate kind of the bedroom and the washroom area. So I still call it a studio apartment, even though it technically had kind of one bedroom, but because there was no door for the bedroom, I called it a studio. Now let's focus on the first month where I rented a room in someone's home. I rented the room which had air conditioning. The bed, of course, I had a desk to work from out of the room, and then I had a washroom, and of course I could use the living space downstairs. This room was upstairs in these people's home, and obviously I could use the kitchen for cooking as well. Now also upstairs there's a small kind of area where I could have like a couch and a desk. I could also work there. That was outside the room, but it was more kind of a public area. And I spent 250 Canadian dollars for an entire month doing that the very first month in Cancun, renting this room out of someone's house. Now, this is by far one of the most affordable options if you are, let's say, on a budget and you want, to have still your own privacy where you have your own room, etc., but you're living with other people. Maybe considering renting a room in someone's home is something you might want to do. But again, for myself, I paid 250 Canadian for the entire month. You may be able to rent a room in someone's house for anywhere between 200 to 400 Canadian within that space. Of course, it could also be more, just depending on the place, what the place is going to be like in the area. I do want to mention that this time when I rented this apartment in Cancun, I say apartment, not apartment, the room in someone's house, this was in a gated community. So there was security and not anybody could just get into that place. And so that was the very first time. This was a little bit more towards, it was, if you're familiar with the downtown Cancun area, it was a little bit further, a little bit deeper in towards the jungle, further away from the ocean, if that makes sense, okay? Now, the second time was very close to the downtown area, maybe a 10-minute walk, and I rented this a studio apartment, as I already mentioned, and this time I paid 460 Canadian for this studio apartment. Now, the studio apartment I rented an entire month. It had everything included with air conditioning, a kitchen, utilities, everything was included. The area itself, I would say overall was pretty nice. Obviously we had some, dogs a little bit in that area, and because it was not a private, area, there was a little bit more like not kind of as clean, a little bit more messy kind of outside on the street, which is something you can expect in certain neighborhoods in Mexico in general, not just in Cancun, but people put their garbage on the street and then it gets kind of maybe, carried around by dogs, etc. So sometimes it's not as clean as I would have preferred it to be. But overall, no complaints. The rent-wise for the month, with me paying the 460 Canadian, 460 or 450 within that framework, was quite affordable for the space that it was. Now, I will say that you can find places in Cancun for rent as low as 400, but that will probably be the low end if you want to find a place by yourself. And then obviously if you have a little bit more, room, let's say you can go up to 800 a month, you can easily find something. Again, that is Canadian. For the most part, you could probably find something in Cancun between 500 to 600 that is decent, and that is again Canadian. Now that would be a studio and maybe sometimes a 1-bedroom. I will share with you that if you find these places, something you can do is, go there, ask the host to see the place if you don't want to book it right away, and then you can negotiate a better deal with them, so you can get better deals than, let's say, directly booking it on Airbnb. Another thing you could do is find Facebook groups where people post listings, and you go reach out to these people and you go view the place, and if you like it, you pay whatever the amount is, whatever the deal is that you agree on. But for the most part, you could definitely find a place in Cancun for 600 Canadian a month. So we'll say 600 Canadian, you could find something for sure that is by yourself. Again, the alternative option, if you want to rent a room out of someone's house, that would be a little bit cheaper. We're going to say between 300 to 400 Canadian, you could do that. Now, can you find something by yourself for under 600 Canadian? You can, but it might not be the nicest of place, okay? So I'm going to say the baseline kind of average, what you can expect is about 600 Canadian. We'll say 500 to 600 Canadian within that framework. You can expect to pay that for rent, okay? One other option for rent is if you don't want to rent a room out of someone else's house, if you don't want to rent, a room with people you don't know, you might want to find someone or see if you can have a friend or someone that you can trust, that you can, rent a place together with them, where maybe both of you rent the place together and you end up maybe paying 500 to 600 each, and you have your own rooms and you share your own space as well. That's an alternative option. But I mean, it's basically the same thing as renting someone with someone else, just maybe you want to rent something with someone that you know as opposed to with someone you don't know. Obviously, there's nothing really to be concerned about if you're renting it through Airbnb and the people that put it up there, if they have reviews and so on and so forth, you don't have really anything to be concerned of with regards to safety. It's just sometimes some people don't want to rent with people that they don't know, and I can understand if that's something that you don't want to do. Now, with that being said, let's cover the transportation. If you are in any place in Cancun and you want to go to the hotel zone or anywhere around Cancun, it's very simple to do. Obviously, you can take taxis, but the taxis are going to be more expensive. So you can, do that if you have the money and you want to do that. Alternatively, if you want a cheaper form of transportation, then you can take buses or colectivo vans. And these buses and vans are super cheap. I'll give you an example. If you want to go to the hotel zone and you're in downtown Cancun, you take R1 or R2, and these buses go in one direction all the way down, all the way to the hotel zone, all the way down. They turn around and they come all the way back in the hotel zone and all the way back into the downtown and past the downtown to complete their route. So these buses basically go back and forth. And this is R1 and R2 based on my experience when I was there. These buses are 11 peso per trip. That's not even $1 Canadian. To give you an example, $1 Canadian is anywhere between 15 to 16 Mexican peso. Obviously this can fluctuate. But 11 peso is what you pay them when you get onto the bus. They just go and then you get off whenever you want to get off. And then the same thing coming back. You get onto the bus, give them the 11 peso, and then you just get off whenever and wherever you want to get off. It's very simple. If you take the colectivo vans, it's pretty much the exact same process. Again, you just have to figure out where you want to go and then which one goes where. So the colectivo, the van buses type of things, they go more around the city in different areas. The R1, R2 buses that I'm talking about, they go to the hotel zone and back. Now, if you go to the hotel zone and you want to go, let's say, to the beaches or to any different type of restaurants or bars, or there's a lot of mall areas there, you will be spending more money if you go to that area. It's that simple. So if you go to that area and you want to go to the beach and you want to have some sort of parties, etc., of course, I would recommend that you buy whatever it is that you want to buy, maybe in Cancun, and then you take it with you in a bag type of thing, like in a backpack or whatever, and this way you have snacks and any type of drinks that you might want on the beach area, etc., and you don't have to spend what it would cost you to buy it there. Obviously, if you go to convenience stores, even in the hotel zone, it's not that much more expensive than downtown Cancun, so it's not that big of a deal. But the restaurants most definitely will be sometimes double the price for the food and for drinks in the hotel zone area. The taxis also are going to be more expensive in the hotel zone area, so keep that in mind. All right, now, with that being said, let's cover food. I kind of already covered food in the hotel zone, so let's just cover food in the downtown area. The food in Cancun, you can definitely eat for a very cheap, kind of way if you're used to kind of the cost of living food-wise in Canada, United Kingdom, or the United States. So I would say you can have meals that are anywhere between 4 to 6 Canadian dollars at local type restaurants in downtown Cancun and the areas, of course, all the way around, not just downtown, just local spots, all over the place. 4 to 6 Canadian dollars per meal. In Canada, USA, or UK, you would definitely pay quite a bit more for that. And then obviously the grocery stores are also great options if you're going to cook at home, or local markets that you can go support. Now, with the grocery stores, if you're going to mix in cooking at home and you're going to blend in going to restaurants, maybe local restaurants once a day, you could definitely have your, daily, let's say, well, we'll not say daily, we'll say monthly kind of costs for the groceries can be anywhere between 200 to 300, maybe on the high end 400 Canadian dollars. So overall, I would say if your rent in Cancun was 600 Canadian a month and your groceries and transportation together would be 400 Canadian, you could be looking at living in Cancun, Mexico for 1,000 Canadian every single month. You can definitely do that. This is obviously not taking into consideration if you like to party, drink a lot, or if you do any type of drugs, things of that nature, which I don't recommend that you do. But if you're going to be doing a lot of that at nighttime in the hotel zone or wherever, then of course you'll be spending more money. This is literally just taking into consideration your rent. And I'm saying 600 a month for rent. You can definitely find something for less, especially if you want to rent with somebody else. Obviously, if you want your own place, then we'll say 500 to 600. So let's just say 600. And I'm going to say 400 with, going to local restaurants, let's say once a day for $46. And then the rest, I'm assuming you would cook at home, snacks, etc. You would buy it from the grocery store or local markets. And, this is very affordable to do and you could easily fit it in for 400 a month. Now, if you combine everything together, it would be about 1,000 a month. Obviously, your rent could be a little bit less. You might have a little bit in there for transportation, but you can definitely live in Cancun for 1,000 Canadian dollars a month. I would say on the low end, you could bring it down to as low as 700 Canadian, that is, per month, especially if you're going to be living with somebody else and your rent would be significantly reduced. If you want to go even a little bit higher to give yourself a little bit more leeway, you could even say 1,200 Canadian a month. So anywhere between 700 Canadian to 1,200 Canadian on the high end, you can definitely do that easily in Cancun. 700 would be a little bit more restrictive. Obviously, you'd be renting a place most likely with somebody else. 1,200 would be a little bit more open, a little bit more leeway, where you still have a place where your rent is anywhere between 500 to 600. And then you're giving yourself anywhere between also, we'll say about 600 for food and other things as well. So with that being said, that brings everything together. Obviously, I didn't say much on transportation with figuring that in because truthfully, if you take transportation like the buses and the collectivos, it's basically going to be as good as like $10 or $20 a month to get around. It's super cheap unless you're going to be using them every day and you spend a couple dollars a day. And then it might be $30 to $40 a month on transportation. But for the most part, transportation is not going to break your bank whatsoever. So with that being said, I hope you found value in this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, leave any thoughts or questions in the comments for me below. So I'll respond to you as soon as I see them. And make sure also, if you haven't already, to subscribe to the channel so you do not miss future videos that I produce for you, because I plan to share with you more videos based on my own life experience related to travel and more. And finally, I encourage you to go to the description of this video below right now. In the description, you will see a few links. I've put together multiple unique offers for you that you can check out, and you can get access to every single one of those offers that you need and or want. Keep in mind that any of those offers that you get access to, I will be getting a percentage. So I appreciate you for going to the description below, for checking out all the offers, for clicking the links, and for getting access to any of the ones that you need and want, because through that way, you're also supporting me. Thanks again for tuning into this video. I appreciate you so much, and let's stay blessed and let's go.